This is the Shaver Prep Football Podcast, episode 14, presented by Aquarius Home Services and brought to you by True Stone Financial and Culver's. And I'll name our Culver's Player of the Week in just a few minutes. In Class 6A, the number one seed, Maple Grove, scored early and often to beat Burnsville 55-6 on Friday night in the opening round of the playoffs. And now the only undefeated team in the big class gets 4 seed and perennial power, 11-time state champion Eden Prairie next. EP beat Woodbury 42-15. Not the matchup any 1 seed wants to see, but the Crimson say they're ready. Well, Jacob Wrbanek is the star linebacker for Maple Grove, and on Friday, the Crimson are going to play probably their toughest game of the season when they face Eden Prairie in round 2 of the playoffs. Thanks for doing this. The 6A playoff bracket came out last week on Talk North. You knew this was a possibility if you're a 1 seed with EP being a 4 seed. How did your coach sell this to you guys, and then how did you respond to that?
Well, he told us that he thinks our biggest test is us, and that we have to. And when he says that, he thinks our biggest test is that we have to approach each week as it's our biggest game, no matter what. We have to prepare and practice as it's our biggest game. We're not going to change anything depending on the opponent. And he thinks that if we can stay locked in, we can beat anyone in the state. And we take that as yes, we can. We completely agree. We've done it all year, but we then have to ramp up our intensity during practice. And the way that we approach every single thing is the way that we have to do it on Friday night. We have to play Monday's practice as the same as we plan to do on Friday's practice. So I think what his whole message was is that if we're us, no one can beat us. And the whole team has kind of taken it the same way, and that we just have to bring intensity every week. Our JV, our scout knows that. And they've done a fantastic job all season giving us a look. And so, that's how it's going to be. This weekend or this morning, we already started watching film.
Having said all that, it's still Eden Prairie,
Yes,
right?
sir.
It's still Eden
Yes.
Prairie. So
Yeah.
you
They're very
know,
welcome.
yeah, you know what's coming. They love ball control. They love to limit possessions on offense. They will throw some trick plays at you guys because they're good at that too. How do you prepare for a team like EP?
Well, I think it comes down to trusting our eyes. They're going to do a lot of things that try to get us to mess up. So we have to have trust in our eyes. That's been the thing that we've been working on all season. Trust your guards, DBs, trust your wide receivers, DNs, crash down when you need to crash down, read. And I think doing our jobs is the main thing. Is kind of what I'm getting at is we do our jobs. They try to take advantage of people not doing their job. If we do our job, we can play sound. We play good. I think it'd be a great game for us on Friday.
Just so that people understand, Maple Grove has the number one defense in Class 6A. Let me throw some numbers out there. 53 tackles for losses, 18 sacks, 5 fumble returns for touchdowns, 2 interception returns for touchdowns, 12 interceptions in 9 games, 10 fumbles forced. This defense has played outstanding from week 1 until now. What's been the secret? Why are you guys so successful?
We have fun. I'm going to be clear. We have fun. We have film every Tuesday and Thursday where we lock in. We put our phones in a bucket sometimes if we really need to lock in. And we watch film. We talk through all of our calls. We kind of stop it early sometimes, and we'll be, where are you seeing? What play do you think's coming here? And then we enjoy playing with each other. We've been playing with each other, a lot of us, for the last 2 years. We had a lot of returners this year. And the stories we have, the amount of fun we have in practice, Burrow lets us kind of be us. So, sometimes at practice, we got to get on pace, but we have fun. And I think that's the one thing is we just get to play freely and we trust each other, and you don't got to worry about overstepping your role. Your role is your role, your role, and go have a go have a ball on Friday is what we kind of do.
In 2022, Maple Grove runs the table. They win the state championship. You're a sophomore on that team. You play 5 games. What did that teach you? What did you learn from that year that now you guys carry over into this run starting against Burnsville on Friday night and then this Friday against EP?
To compete. That team they competed. I mean, you look at their schedule, you look at Jacob Kilser, he had two torn labrums, and dude played every single game. He'd get his shoulder pop out, and you're standing on the sideline, and you see him, he puts it back in, he straps up 5 plays later. Like, they competed, they worked their tail off. I mean, they had Tanner Albrecht, who was a linebacker, and dude flew around, dude competed, dude wanted to win so badly that he did whatever it had to take. That was what that team did. They did whatever it had to take to win. And being able to watch that, learn from that, and see what it took to win and how much they competed during practice and how it carried over to Friday nights was one thing that you can't teach that. You got to learn it. And that was one thing that they did a great job of, was competing.
It seems like the transition from Matt Lombardi to Adam Spurl has been flawless. It seems like it just was not an issue at all. How would you describe it?
Um, Lombardi did a ton for us. I mean, he built this program up from ground zero, and he's done a phenomenal job with us. He's like a father figure to a lot of us, and he helped us out so much through it. But then there's also Spurl, who's right there, is like right-hand man the entire time. So whatever Lombo knew, Spurl pretty much knew too. So having that step up, I mean, Spurl was always connecting with us more on a personal level. I would say he's a little bit more of a player's coach. So he knew all of us, like, what he knows, our parents, he knows this, he connects with us individually, asks us about how we're doing, asks us about our family stuff. And he didn't think of us more as a football player, as more of a guy in life. So when he steps up, he knew who he was getting and what he needed to do to succeed.
So you've committed verbally to NDSU. Is that commitment still solid? And why NDSU?
That commitment's still solid. I was just up there last weekend with Spurl and then Ryder Skansen. We went to the NDSU SDSU game. Why NDSU is the culture there is amazing. Coach Paulsek reminds me a lot like Spurl. He's a player's coach. He likes what he does, and he'll hold you responsible for your stuff. Grant Olson getting upgraded to defensive coordinator was awesome. And they've kind of been there ever since junior year. They were always the team that constantly reached out, and they just made you feel loved. And I just really like what they're doing up there. I got a teammate that's going there as well, Dylan Vocal, and I've had friends that have gone there in the past just at school, and they say they love everything about it. So it was kind of one of those things that you look at your options and you see what you have, and that it crossed off pretty much every box that you can cross off.
You're having an all-state season at linebacker. You lead your team in tackles, tackles for losses, in sacks. For you personally, describe yourself as a linebacker. What do you think makes you a good player?
I think I trust my eyes a lot. There might be better athletes out there than me, but no one will compete as hard as me, and no one will study film as much as me. I feel like trusting my eyes is one major thing as a linebacker that I really had to work on from day one. I kind of ran around, asked a ton of questions, sometimes pissed people off with how many questions I asked. I mean, you asked Sproul their story sophomore year where like he's just play, just play, just play. So finally getting to that point where I just play you've seen the results this year. It's been awesome. So I think that's one thing is I just play a little bit more freely now, calmer. I don't have to worry about so much in my head. It's just kind of see, go, play.
Well, Jacob, I appreciate you doing this. The last time Maple Grove played Eden Prairie, they beat EP in the state semifinals in 2021, 35-3. Opportunity is knocking again this Friday for the Crimson. Jacob, thanks so much. Good luck on Friday.
Thank you so much.
One major upset in 6A, 6 seed St. Michael Albertville knocked off 3 seed Stillwater 21-14. Also, 3 5 seeds beat 4 seeds last Friday. Defending 6A champion Centennial is out after losing to Rochester Mayo. Champlain Park survived against Eastridge, and Prior Lake swamped Farmington 42-14. For classes 5A and below, the big playoff action took place on Saturday, October 26th, in section semifinal play. I was in Princeton on Saturday afternoon as the host Tigers beat Rocori 32-8 to remain unbeaten at 9-0. They advance in Class 4A Section 8 and get number 1 ranked Becker on Friday in the section final. The loss ended the shortened season of the state's top junior football recruit, big number 78, Andrew Trout of Rocori. The Gopher offensive line commit missed almost all of the season with an injury, and I talked with Andrew about his abbreviated return. So the game Saturday at Princeton, my understanding, was your one and only full game of action this year.
Correct.
What was
Yeah.
that like? I mean, it's just been a rough year for you.
Yeah, it really has been, but the guys have really stepped up. The guy behind me really did a great job over the season. Yeah, I got to play a little bit against Orno. We won that game. That was great. Felt great to be out there again. And then I guess yesterday it also felt really good, but the outcome really wasn't what we were expecting. But that's football. That's football. So.
How about for you? How about for you physically? How did you feel in the game on Saturday? Did you feel, could you tell that you had not played all year? Were you physically tired? How would you describe it?
Well, physically, I felt tremendous physically. I really did feel good. I feel the week of practice I had was really good leading up to it, kind of knocked the rust off again.
Yeah.
But during the game, I felt really good, not tired or yeah, I just felt really good.
So take me back to August because I happened to show up at a practice at Rocori. And I think the injury to you happened like the day before or 2 days before that. So I see you in a walking boot in practice in August. Describe the injury and then the process of the surgery and just kind of that timeline.
Yeah, so I broke my foot. I can't remember the exact date, but it was a Friday in August. And I went and got an X-ray, and they say I broke my fifth metatarsal on my left foot, which is like the outermost bone. And then the doctor at St. Cloud Orthopedics said 4 weeks in a cast, 4 weeks in a boot, and then another 4 weeks of PT. So I, instead of doing that, I went down to the U at Minnesota Health Fairview down there. Great place. And then I met with Dr. Fernando Pena. He is the foot and ankle surgeon down there. And they ended up doing surgery down there on, it was a Thursday, the week after my
Yep.
foot I broke. It was a Thursday I got surgery. And what they did was they put a screw through the bone that I had broke, and they like took some bone marrow from my heel and put it into where the break was to heal faster and whatnot. But the timeline for me getting back was supposed to be 2 weeks in a cast, 4 weeks in a walking boot, and then 4 weeks of PT after that. So I did my 2 weeks in the cast, which was miserable. Uh, 4 weeks in a walking boot again wasn't the best, but I got through that. And then I went and got more X-rays down there on a Tuesday of October, and they said my bone was completely healed. I had healed the fastest they've ever seen before,
That's amazing.
and I was super exciting. And the doctor pretty much told me I have no limitations when it comes to my bone, and I can get back into practice as soon as my physical therapist clears me. So that's why I was able to play against Orno. So
So the timeline obviously worked out to be able to get on the field for you. What did you learn about yourself during this time of having to watch football and not play football?
yeah, well, it was definitely really tough on me. Um, uh, Getting to experience the game from a different standpoint, I guess. Instead of actually being out playing, I get to watch a little bit. But no, it was super tough. I learned that resilience is a big thing, being able to stride through injuries and stride through injuries and setbacks, and being able to overcome stuff like that makes you a great player and future player.
So you are considered the number one junior recruit in the state of Minnesota for football. You've already verbally committed to the Gophers via
Mhm.
the stocking cap you're wearing today. Why the Gophers? What swayed you? And can I ask, is that commit rock solid, or are you still looking around?
Yeah, no, that the commit is rock solid. I'm not gonna waver from that whatsoever. But the Gophers, they've always been a big target for me. Growing up, I've always watched their games. I'd always have Gopher apparel, I guess.
Sure.
My parents love the Gophers. My whole family is a Gophers fan watching the football. And they were my second offer. And talking to PJ and Coach Callahan, their O-line coach down there, just absolutely great guys. I love them. And that was probably the biggest reason why it was so easy for me to make that choice early.
So what's your height and weight right now as you
Right
finish?
now, I am almost a quarter inch away from 6'7" and 295 pounds.
Okay. What do they want you to play at? What is a more comfortable weight for you to play? Do you see yourself next year, your senior year at Rocori, being 310, 315? What's in the back of your mind as you look at your off season?
Yeah, so I kind of was thinking about it a little bit. I would prefer to be around 300 for my senior season at Rocori, just because I feel like that's a comfortable weight for me to play at right now. And I feel like this off season would be more so getting rid of some of the pudge and putting on more muscle I have right now.
How
But
much pudge do you really have to lose?
realistically, not that much, but just toning it up a little bit. But Callahan pretty much just told me when I come there, he wants me to be just physically the healthiest and most mobile I can be at whatever weight that may be.
Yeah.
So if that's 275 or if that's 330, it really, he said, doesn't matter.
Well, I guess the bottom line is something is better than nothing. And so you did get a chance to get on the field this year. I know this has been a very difficult year for you in a lot of different ways. But the good news is you've got a senior season and you've got a chance to play, and I know you'll take full advantage of it. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
When I met Jeff, the owner of Aquarius Home Services, I got it. He started the business in 1987 with one goal in mind: great customer service every single time. It's not a buzz phrase. Customer service is at the heart of Aquarius Home Services. I'm a customer. I see it, I feel it, and trust me, you will too. Cooling, heating, water treatment, plumbing, electrical, and more. Aquarius Home Services, earning the right to be recommended. Our Talk North Walk the Talk winner from week one of the playoffs is Apple Valley quarterback Jackson Thornburg. In 2 wins, 389 yards passing and 7 touchdowns, plus 3 rushing touchdowns. Apple Valley was 2-6 during the regular season, but won 2 playoff games last week, including a massive upset over previously unbeaten Two Rivers, 35-31. Apple Valley will play St. Thomas Academy on Friday night in the Class 5A Section 3 title game. Remember, the winners this week go to state and the losers are done. Our Talk North games of the week are in Class 2A, Section 4, maybe the most competitive section in Minnesota. It's Cannon Falls against unbeaten Norwood Young America in the section final on Friday. Remarkably, 5 of the 6 teams in this section had records of 6-2 or better. And 2 big rematches in 5A. Alexandria versus number 1 ranked Moorhead in the Section 8 final. The Spuds won the first game 36-33. And Andover plays defending champion Elk River in the Section 7 final. Andover is the only team to beat the Elks this fall. Well, Steve Hamilton is the head football coach of Elk River. He remembers that loss to Andover in week 4, 47-31. And Friday they host the Huskies in the Section 7 final in Class 5A. You got this team moving in the right direction. You beat St. Francis on Saturday, 61-14. Where is your team right now, mentally and physically, heading into arguably the most important game of your season?
Well, yeah, for sure it is. We're pretty healthy. I mean, that's one of the advantages, right, of getting that bye and not having to play on Tuesday. So we should be full full team should be ready to go on Friday night, and they're certainly ready for this, and I know Andover is too. So, but it was a game where we put the ball on the ground 4 times, and we know that if we do that, we're going to struggle to win for sure against anybody. So we've got to take care of us. That's all we can really worry about.
This rivalry from with Andover from the outside looking in is crazy. The last 5 meetings, here's the total points between the two teams: 78, 116, 97, 102, and 100. And if you go back to 2017, you had 2 games against Andover. Both teams combined for 123 points and 126 points. What in the world can you play each other enough? Can you not figure out how to stop each other?
Apparently not. I think you have two really good offenses, quite different offenses, but
Yeah.
they do such a good job in their spread and putting you in really tough positions. And then they have really good athletes. So, it's one thing, to run what we do or what they do, but when you put really good athletes in any offense that you coach really well, I think you're going to score points. And that's what you find on both sides. And both sides do a really good job. And it's probably an entertaining game to watch because it's just complete opposites on offense.
Sometimes teams you just don't match up well. Sometimes it just happens. Is this one of those teams that for you just don't match up well against?
Well, I think that if you look at those scores, I would say, yeah, probably, right? Um, yeah, it's been a struggle for us. For us, obviously, with what we do offensively, to give a good scout look on spread and have kids that can run really good routes, and that's really hard. And of course, that works the other way too. For a spread team to go in and to simulate us for a week is also very hard. So that's probably a big part of why you see what you do.
Yeah, very hard to practice against something that you don't see very often and maybe don't have the skill type of
Wow.
players to be able to emulate that.
How many routes do our kids run?
Well, let's see. You've thrown the ball 14 times so far in 9 games. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a lot. Yeah.
that's a lot. Exactly. For those that don't know, Steve is the godfather of the
Oh,
power T in Minnesota, brought it here to the state. And so many teams now run this offense that you installed at Elk River. Um, you and I've talked about this before. How many teams have you mentored in this offense? And since the last time we talked, has it grown even more?
well, I did have some more teams. It's within the state. I'm guessing it's probably about 16. Um, Across the country, for some reason, people reach out to me. I think we just pop up when you do
Yep.
Google Power T. So, I'm been meeting with a guy in Texas, and they're having a great year, and getting some ideas from him too, because they do a couple little different things. So it's always a great collaborative effort. But this is no different than when I learned it, right? The true godfather certainly isn't me. It's Irv Siegler who started it, really got it going in Michigan, and then John Shillito who took it to a whole nother level. And I used to bring my staff over to Michigan to meet with John every year in the off season, and they're still doing great. He's doing great at Zeeland West again. So it's always funny when you say something like that to me because I was just this at one point younger guy. I was just trying to learn this
Right.
and figure it out and see what John would do and Irv would do, and just like, why can't we do that? So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously flattering. We've had some success, and John said it after we won in 2016. He said, "Now watch, everybody's going to come to you because they think it's just like this magic dust that you just run the power team, you're going to win." And obviously, there's a lot of details to what we do.
For those that don't know what the power T is, can you describe it in a couple of sentences of what this offense really is predicated on?
Well, it's really predicated on being physical up front. And I know a lot of people look at the fakes and say that's the secret to the offense. And that certainly helps. When you're a good faking team, you can have 2 guys chase, and that's better than a block. So that's all part of it. But at the end of the day, we've just got to be really physical up front. And then when we're really good, we're experienced up front, so we can make a lot of changes and trap a lot of different ways or off tackle a lot of different ways. And from the stands, I know it just looks like the same thing, but up
Right.
front, we are trying to do things to put us in the best situation.
There are some subtle variations to this offense that the more experience that you have, and as you point out, especially on your offensive line, because that's really where it all starts. But the variations are subtle enough that can make a huge difference. And for people who look at your stats sometimes and they go, wow, Courage busts one for 78 and 85. That's a byproduct of the grinding of the 5 yards and the 6 yards, because sooner or later you're going to bust one or two of those.
Yeah, you think so. You would like to think you're going to do that. And it's a byproduct. This offense is the guys up front. I think when you have a great O line, let's say anybody can run, but anybody probably gets you 3 or 4 yards. Now, when you couple that with really talented backs like we have this year,
Yep.
that's how you can be explosive. But at the end of the day, our guys up front have to win. And that's pretty typical in most, right? That's still
Right,
football
right.
as much as it's changed.
Regardless of any offense.
Yeah, you win the line of scrimmage, you got a really good chance to win.
Elk River this year, 432 rushes, 4,108 yards, and 56 touchdowns, averaging 456 yards a game. Is that atypical? Is that a goal? Is that what you shoot for in this offense, to average 456 on the ground every game?
We don't have a goal that, our goals are simple: no pre-snap penalties, no turnovers. And then can we get 10 explosive plays? That's our offensive goals. And explosive plays, for us is, can we get a play over 10 yards, which, we do that fairly frequently. And then obviously when we're talented, we do it more often than not. But we don't have a goal of, hey, we need to average 400. Very rarely we talk about that because there's a lot of factors into that, right? You might get short fields a lot of games, or, a game like we played Apple Valley and had 701. Well, they had a good kicker and we had 80-yard fields every time. So, I've through the years, I've had that as a goal in the past, and then we would run for 380, but win by a lot and say, well, we're going to punish the kid and not give him a sticker because we didn't get the goal. So I think we've just kind of narrowed down, here are the things that help us win, no penalties and don't turn the ball over. And then we're tough to stop, 4 plays to get 10 yards.
Before the season started, you told me you think this is one of your better teams. Do you still think that today, heading into Andover?
I do, but ask me after Friday, I guess. Yeah, I think talent-wise, we're there. We're experienced up front. We have 4 backs, when you include our quarterback, they're all explosive and they can all take it 80 yards. So I like where we're at, and we're getting better and better. A whole new defense this year, and so we're just getting better and better every week with that. So I think we have a really good shot. It's one of those things that you wish that maybe we looked at, and I hate to say this because people get mad, but maybe we look at how we set up the playoffs and having to turn around and play a really good team again right away that you played already. And I think there's other ways to do it. One of the things I thought Georgia did really well is, they were regions, not sections, but your top 4 would be seated different places. So your 1 would be one spot, 2 somewhere else. So you couldn't see each other again until semifinals at the earliest. And I think sometimes you get those sections where look at Chan and West last year. Either one of them could have won the state.
Look at Alex and Moorhead this year.
Alex and Moorhead, 2 great teams, right? So it's unfortunate that only one of them gets to go. And, but it is what it is at this point. I don't know if that's going to change, but that's kind of how it is for us in Andover for the last few years.
Yeah. Steve, it's always great to see you. Good luck on Friday. Huge game between Andover and Elk River. The winner of that game is heading to the state tournament. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Randy.
I was visiting with my friends over at Truestone Financial the other day, and they're just a warm and welcoming group. They're known as the Neighborhood Credit Union, and I think that's the best way to describe them. When I'm at Truestone, I feel like I'm chatting with my neighbors. Combine that personality with a full menu of services and a lot of financial expertise, and you have a winning combination. Whether I need a checking account, a car loan, even a mortgage, I know I'm going to be working with smart, friendly people. With 23 locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, you're not far from a Truestone neighborhood. Visit a branch near you or learn more at truestone.org. Truestone is an equal housing opportunity lender. I got a note this week from the head football coach at Belgrade Bruton El Rosa, Chris Michaud, who we featured on this podcast a few weeks ago about his cancer battle. But that's not what this note was about. It was about the young guy in the green sleeves, Easton. In 2019, at the age of 2, Easton was diagnosed with cancer of the liver. Long story short, his battle has been long and tough. But the Jags football team took him in. That's Easton on the right. They supported him, and he's never missed a game. And now, at age 6, Easton is cancer-free, and BBE is still by his side. Moments like this are just simply bigger than the game. It does feel like playoff time for the Gopher football team. They're at Illinois this weekend, coming off a big win over Maryland, 48-23, to raise their record to 5-3. Gopher quarterback Max Brosmer threw 4 touchdown passes in that game. Max is using his COVID extra season to play Big Ten football, and it's all been worth it. Gopher quarterback Max Brosmer is in the middle of his season with the Gophers. And I guess my first question is, when you thought about playing Big Ten football, what did you think it would be? And has it turned out to be that or more?
That's a great question. I would say for Big Ten football, you kind of think of the amount of, support you get from the outside, the fan base, but also the amount of people who are trying to root against you as well. The amount of people in general supporting the Big Ten, that's the biggest difference for me. And I think I've tried to limit my intake on that by, staying on social media, only sticking to, what's being said inside these walls. So that's helped me throughout the transition. And I think, growing up in the Big Ten, both my parents went to Ohio State. So I had a little bit of a feel of what, games looked like and felt like, but I never actually was, on the field doing it. And so now actually doing it in front of a Big Ten crowd every single week, it's absolutely amazing. It's really cool to be a part of, but also to be able to play on that stage in front of my family is the coolest experience. So that, we've gotten here together. They've supported me, along the whole way. And this is just the next step of the process.
So we'll talk about your high school days in Georgia in a minute, but I'm wondering, when you were a senior in high school, and you were looking around for colleges, did you feel like you were a Big Ten ready quarterback, or did the experience at New Hampshire really set you up to have success at the Big Ten level?
Yeah, I would say that, at the bottom line, I was always confident in my ability to do, the best of what I can in the field. I was always confident that when I played my best, I could play with anybody. And in high school, I don't think that I knew, I wasn't able to compare myself to a lot of Big Ten quarterbacks. I didn't have a ton of quarterbacks around me that, play at that level. And so you can only see, the 4 or 5 star quarterbacks that are going to Ohio State and Penn State and Alabama and Tennessee, but they're from other states. And to be able to, experience, training with NFL quarterbacks growing up with my quarterback coach, Quincy Avery, you have a little bit of feel of what it looks like to have that, arm talent and that size. And I wasn't that as a high school senior. And I wasn't, I was just almost to 6'2", maybe almost to 6'2", and I was like 195, maybe 200 pounds. And I was a little undersized, and I didn't have the strongest arm. I wasn't the fastest guy. And so I think New Hampshire taught me everything I need to know about myself. And I'm still learning about myself to this day here at Minnesota. But I think growing through that program in New Hampshire taught me about, what kind of person I am, what kind of football player I could be. And it taught me how to lead. It taught me how to lead new people on a daily basis. And I think the development piece is what, got me to where I am today.
So you're settling in, you're playing well. Describe October 12th. Describe the feeling at the Rose Bowl to win that football game late. First of all, it's the Rose Bowl, which Gopher fans are like, oh my gosh, what a great experience. But for you personally, what was that night like?
It was absolutely incredible. I got to, I grew up watching Ohio State playing the Rose Bowl more than a few times. I felt like they were in the Rose Bowl every year, but that probably isn't the case. They had that run when I was younger throughout elementary school, middle school, and but now I was able to go to the Rose Bowl a few years ago to watch Ohio State play against Utah. So that was my next step into the atmosphere, and now I'm here. On the schedule it says UCLA at the Rose Bowl, and I'm like, let's go, dude. Like I've always wanted to play here. The environment is it's one of the most historic places to play football, and you can't take that for granted. You have to go in, pregame, making sure that you take in the environment as best you can, because once you start playing ball, it's time to play football. But before and after the game, it was I was doing my best to take in the environment, really live, where my feet are. And then after the game was a really cool moment. I got to see my dad on the sideline. Basically, he was in the stands, but it's like on field level. And our last memory at the Rose Bowl together was when Ohio State won. And so now this was the most recent one, of us winning at the Rose Bowl.
Did you ever think at age 23 you'd still be playing college football?
No. I feel like I've been playing college football for way longer than I'm supposed to. But it's been an absolute blessing. I think people have different times. They have different journeys. And I'm just living on a journey that for some reason and somehow I'm here at Minnesota, and there's a reason for that. And, I'm learning it on a daily basis, and I'm sure I'll know the reason, next year or the year after of why I came here. And, I've always stuck by that, my whole life. I think that keeps me grounded.
For those that don't know, when Max played high school football in Georgia, his career, 7,252 yards passing, 61 touchdowns in 2 seasons. You had a great high school career. What do you remember the most from Centennial High that you carry with you right now?
Yeah, I number one is, my coaching staff that I grew insanely close with, the Coach Perry brothers, Coach Marsh. Those are the 3 guys that really stuck with me and continue to stick with me throughout to this day. I actually just talked to them a couple days ago. They taught me, discipline of football, what it looks like to work hard. Coach Michael Perry, he was Deshaun Watson's coach in high school, and Deshaun Watson had an amazing career throughout high school and college. And he taught me how to play quarterback, and I can't thank him enough for that. He taught me what it meant to be grateful to, which I think that I look back on. And, we used to have meetings before school every single day to go over film and just talk. And those days still stick with me. And we haven't talked about that in a while, but I'm sure that'll come up at some point.
There are high school football quarterbacks from Minnesota that will watch this podcast. They see you, they know what you've done this year. What kind of advice can you give to a high school football quarterback right now that wants to kind of follow in your steps, follow your journey, do what you are doing? What do they need to be thinking about and doing right now in order to prepare themselves for that?
Number one for me is, I think I could argue for a couple number ones, but number one is you have to love the game of football. At this level, it becomes more of a business, and so you have to fall back on what you grew up doing, what you grew up playing as a kid, like playing with your boys in the backyard. Probably hitting too much when you shouldn't be, when you're falling in the grass and bruising up your knees. You have to go back to that. That's the feeling you have to have every single day, because it's such a business that can get lost sometimes. I would say the second thing is work ethic. The quarterback has to be the hardest worker on the team, and if you don't display that on a daily basis, then you kind of fall behind. And as a leader, you fall behind, and as a player in general, like you won't grow unless you push yourself to uncomfortable limits. And that's what, I kind of try to do here was, push myself to an uncomfortable limit, bring myself to Minnesota. I could have stayed at New Hampshire, but I pushed myself to be uncomfortable again. And I feel like I'm growing on a daily basis for that. And I would say number 3 is always strive to get better. I think we have a good mantra here. It's being 1-0. And that's kind of a small piece of it, but I think that ties in both the first and second point of loving it and also the work ethic piece. But you always need to strive better to be better, because if you stay stagnant and stay consistent and comfortable, it's really hard to grow and become the best player you can be. And for all players, especially people in the NFL, like they all have their own paths, their own journeys. You got to stick to your own path and your own journey and work your butt off, because ultimately, if you have goals and you have dreams, the only way to get there is to work your butt off.
Eventually, there'll be life after football for Max
Mhm.
Brosmer. What does that look like?
I don't know. I think about that sometimes, and I think it's hard to focus on that when I feel like I'm so focused on my team and this year and this season. Um, I grew up wanting to be in medicine. My mom is a nurse. Her family's in medicine, and so I've always kind of seen myself doing some sort of thing in medicine after football. Um, but I felt like ultimately I'm so tied in and I'm so in love with football. It's hard for me to think about leaving it. And so ultimately, I want to play for as long as I can. And
Does
then
that mean coaching?
maybe, maybe. I think, I think being a quarterback coach would be very, very cool. I think I would spend a majority of my lifetime doing it. And I think I'd be really good at it. So we'll see, though. I don't know what's ahead for me yet.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. Good luck the rest of the way. You're doing a great job so far. I know you're having a blast because
Mhm.
every time I see you playing football, you got a smile on your face, and that's the
Mhm.
way it should be. So
Yeah,
thanks, Max. Appreciate
yeah.
it.
Thanks, Randy.
We all have go-tos, right? Well, mine is Culver's, and all you have to do is look at my social media for proof. I eat at Culver's almost every day, and I love matching my order number to a star athlete. But more than anything else, I love the food. It's fresh, it's delicious, and it's comfort. I feel good after stopping at Culver's. The people are friendly, the food is made to order, and it just makes me happy, truly. So, if you're looking for your go-to, I have a recommendation. Culver's. And our Culver's player of the week is number 8, Carson Heimer of Byron High School. The Bears running back had 25 carries for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 28-0 playoff win over Winona on Saturday. Congratulations. And Culver's is looking for your player of the week for next week. Email your prep player of the week, name, jersey number, and high school to culversplayer@talknorth.com. The winner chosen gets either a free Butterburger or concrete mixer from Culver's. Hey, mark your calendars. In 3 weeks, Talk North will reveal exclusively the complete roster for this year's Minnesota High School Football All-Star Game to be played in December at US Bank Stadium. The game director, Dave Fritzie, will join me in studio to release the entire 88-player roster. That's the week of November 11th. Well, next week on this show, Cody Lindenberg, the Gopher football linebacker, former Anoka High Star, will join me, and we will talk state football playoffs next week. Should be fun. For producer Alex Haugen and the great folks here at Talk North, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.